Welcome to the Deep Dive. It is really great to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We've got a really great one today.
We do. Today we're opening up this stack of sources that, well, on the surface, they present as these incredibly engaging contemporary fiction stories.
Right.
But underneath, they actually operate as this masterclass in behavioral psychology.
They really do. It's so much deeper than you might think at first glance.
Exactly. So we are looking at excerpts from the works of Sunday Times bestselling author Millie Johnson. Specifically, we're focusing heavily on her novella, Lift Me Up.
And we also have glimpses into her broader thematic universe, right? Like titles like The Happiest Ever After, Let the Bells Ring Out, and Same Time Next Week.
Right. But just to be clear, we are not here to just give you a book review today. The mission of this deep dive is to unpack a very specific, universal phenomenon.
The anatomy of a personal and professional renaissance.
Yes. We want to identify that exact psychological breaking point where a person who has spent years shrinking themselves to fit someone else's mold, where they finally decide to reclaim their true, unfiltered identity.
It's such a powerful concept.
It is. I mean, think about packing a cardboard box for a move. You take your most vibrant, eccentric things, maybe a brightly patterned shirt or this quirky painting, you wrap them up, put them in a sturdy box, tape it shut, and shove it in the attic.
Just to keep the living room looking tidy.
Right. But the question we're exploring today is what happens when you are the thing being packed away. You know, when you're folded up and muted to fit into someone else's curated, incredibly beige life.
And the psychological toll of that kind of self-containment is it's severe.
Oh, absolutely.
Over time, you adapt to the dark inside that space. You actually begin to forget what your own unfiltered personality even looks like.
Because you're so focused on everyone else.
Exactly. You've spent so much energy maintaining this hyper-vigilant awareness of what makes everyone else comfortable.
Okay, let's unpack this through our focal case study today. A woman named Tam Remington.
Yes, Tam.
When we meet Tam, she is trapped, like literally and metaphorically. She is navigating this corporate environment at York Mart supermarkets that seems aggressively hostile to her specific brand of leadership.
Right, and she's just finished a grueling stint as the acting managing director.
Which, let's look at the circumstances of how she got that role, because it tells you everything you need to know about the company's culture.
Boy, what it really does.
The previous MD, Martin Middlewood, is described in the sources as an absolute disaster.
A total nightmare of a boss.
He's the kind of executive who wastes company capital on plush carpets and flashy superficial upgrades for his own suite, all while the actual profit margins just tank.
And he surrounds himself with this classic boys club of yes men.
Right, so when the financial storm hits, he literally flees.
Leaving the mess entirely for Tam to clean up. So she steps into the interim role and operates almost entirely under the radar. She implements new incentive schemes, she rebuilds staff morale, and she actually turns the company's trajectory around.
She saves them.
She does. She operates on this model of quiet, covert competence.
And her reward for saving the company. The board this group Tam accurately refers to as fusty old men. They demote her back to an assistant role.
It's infuriating to read.
It really is.
Yeah.
They bring in an outside hire, this glossy, charismatic male executive named Jack Cesaroni, to take the permanent MD spot.
Which is just classic, right?
I mean, I look at this and it reminds me of a secret architect who goes down into a muddy basement, completely rewires the electrical grid, and fixes the foundation of a crumbling house in the dark.
Yeah, doing all the heavy lifting.
Right. And once the house is structurally sound again, the owners hire a flashy new interior designer to come in, cut the ribbon, and take all the credit.
We see this pattern constantly in corporate restructuring, though. It's driven by what organizational psychologists might call the messiah complex of corporate boards.
The messiah complex. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, when a company's in crisis, the board of directors is panicking, and they often mistake loud, disruptive confidence for visionary leadership.
Ah, I see.
Tam was executing necessary surgical fixes behind the scenes to keep the fragile egos of the executives intact. But boards, they default to a traditional, highly visible savior figure, the hatchet man.
So they hired Jack Cesaroni to chop out the deadwood.
Exactly. And the profound irony, the cognitive dissonance of the board itself, is that they are entirely blind to the fact that they and their entrenched cronies are the actual deadwood causing the rot.
Wow. Okay, so this friction culminates in what has to be the most claustrophobic environment imaginable.
Yeah.
Tam is summoned to the boardroom.
The infamous elevator scene.
Yes. She's dressed in this restrictive black suit and a pair of agonizing Louboutin heels, which is a detail regarding her fiancé that we will absolutely unpack in a minute.
Oh, we have to.
So she steps into the lift at Crown Tower with Jack Cesaroni, the man who just effectively stole the job she earned. And between floors 13 and 14, the elevator violently shudders and stops.
The main lights blow out.
Right. The emergency lights flicker on, illuminating that ridiculous plush carpet Martin Middlewood bought.
It is the ultimate pressure cooker, because Tam already has a severe phobia of lifts.
And the air conditioning cuts out.
Right. So she is terrified. She thinks the lift is going to plummet or they're just going to roast in this metal box.
Driven by absolute panic and the certainty that Jack was brought in to fire her anyway, she drops every single corporate filter she has.
She completely goes rogue.
She word vomits the truth. She names the deadwood directly to the incoming CEO. She calls out Richard Idle and accounts for doing nothing but playing golf with the chairman.
She dismantles Francis Belk and TR.
Yes, but more importantly, she champions the unsung heroes. She tells Jack about Oleg Serafinsky, who actually keeps finance running, Jason Clements in grocery.
And Sheila Milner in HR.
Right, Sheila, who is basically the empathetic glue holding the staff together. Now wait, isn't it incredibly reckless corporate suicide to badmouth your colleagues to the incoming CEO? What is she thinking?
Well, what's fascinating here is how extreme stress functions. The logic is that there is no strategy left. You are looking at the physiological bypassing of the prefrontal cortex.
So her brain just short circuits.
Exactly. Extreme stress strips away the fawning trauma response. Tam has spent her entire career strategically biting her tongue, performing what's known as surface acting to survive in a toxic ecosystem.
And the broken lift removes the illusion of control.
Right. Her brain signals that the professional game is over, so the repressed truth simply forces its way to the surface.
The pressure blew the valve.
Precisely. But the crucial analytical point, however, is Jack's reaction. A mediocre manager driven by ego would interpret her outburst as insubordination.
Or just unprofessional complaining.
Right. But Jack applies a different framework. He sees a fiercely loyal, unfiltered leader who possesses a granular understanding of the business mechanics.
He reveals he had already done his homework, doesn't he?
He does. He knew about her covert operations to save the company, and he uses a very specific word to categorize her. He calls her exceptional.
Oh, man. That word completely disrupts her reality.
Right.
Because being seen as exceptional is the exact inverse of the narrative she has fed everywhere else in her life.
It's the total opposite of her home life.
Exactly. The professional erasure we just talked about is just a symptom. The root cause is happening in her personal life. The erosion of her identity is a systemic issue.
The workplace is merely reflecting the conditioning she receives at home.
Right, we need to look at the people she surrounds herself with, starting with her fiancé, Harris Bullivant.
Her.
He's a pompous, status-obsessed banker. When Tam told him she was made interim MD of a major supermarket chain, he barely registered it.
And her own family is arguably worse.
Oh, they are. They are high-achieving, deeply insecure snobs. Her brother James is an arrogant eye surgeon, and her sister Helen is a brutal barrister.
And at Sunday family dinners, they actively mock Tam's empathy. They view her kindness as a fatal lack of ambition.
Why do they do that, though? Psychologically speaking.
It's a classic family systems theory dynamic. Tam has been assigned the role of the non-threatening, accommodating underachiever.
The scapegoat, almost.
Sort of, yeah. If she steps out of that role, it forces the rest of the family to examine their own toxic traits. So they aggressively police her behavior to maintain the status quo.
And Harris takes that policing to an aesthetic extreme. Tam owns this vibrant, quirky muse house full of bright colors and eclectic furniture.
It sounds lovely.
It does. But Harris forces her to pack away all her colorful decor for a minimalist, beige aesthetic so they can move into his clinical, soulless apartment.
He even polices her makeup.
He tells her to stop wearing her signature bright red M.A. lipstick, the shade Ruby Woo, because he considers it vulgar.
It is a literal Grege house flip applied to a person.
Exactly. He is acting like a real estate developer who buys a charming, eccentric, historic home with stained glass and character, rips all of it out, paints the walls gray, and puts in generic laminate flooring just to make it palatable to the lowest common denominator.
That analogy perfectly captures the insidious nature of what we call self-silencing in romantic relationships. Harris doesn't love Tam. He loves her malleability.
He loves what he can make her into.
Right. When Tam finally asks him why he wants to marry her, he never mentions passion or her unique spirit. He describes their match as sensible and solvent.
Solvent, what a romantic word.
I know, right? He looks at her and sees raw material with the potential to be molded into a subdued, socially acceptable banker's wife.
It's the sunk cost fallacy applied to a human being. He's invested time in her, so he's just going to renovate her personality until it fits his portfolio.
And it's terrifying because it happens incrementally. You compromise on the lipstick, then the furniture, then your career ambitions, until your entire life is in black and white.
Fortunately, the narrative provides Tam with external mirrors to shock her back into reality. The first one arrives via Yorkmart. Jack fires the ineffective PR head and hires a woman named Anna Anderson.
Yes, Anna is Tam's former university best friend. They had drifted apart, but Anna serves as this crucial grounding force.
She retains her broad Lancastrian accent, she is unapologetically loud, and she refuses to assimilate.
Anna provides a stark juxtaposition to Tam's future sister-in-law, Natasha.
Oh, Natasha is a carbon copy of Harris. Rigid, controlling, and obsessed with optics.
And this clash of ideologies physically manifests during the wedding dress shopping.
It really does. Natasha is forcing Tam toward this highly restrictive, pompous, overly ornate designer gown. Anna attends the second fitting and hilariously dubs the dress the miniature abominable snowman.
Because the dress Natasha wants isn't designed for a human body. It is an architectural structure meant to broadcast wealth and social conformity to the wedding guests.
But Tam secretly harbors a completely different vision. She has found this simple, bohemian ivory lace dress with bell sleeves.
And she intends to wear flat lace pumps so her feet don't bleed. A direct rejection of those agonizing Louboutins Harris bought her.
Right. She wants a circlet of flowers in her hair, using her favorite colors, pink and yellow, reminiscent of a Battenberg cake.
It is a quiet but desperate rebellion against the suffocating olivine color scheme the mothers have dictated.
A color Tam accurately notes looks like bleached bile.
Haha, exactly.
So here's where it gets really interesting. Is this really just about a wedding dress, or is the dress the canary in the coal mine for her entire existence?
It is absolutely the ultimate symbol of her autonomy. The sociology of wedding aesthetics often operates exactly like that. The event becomes a mechanism for assimilation.
Because the mothers have taken over everything else.
Right. In a process where Tam's mother and mother-in-law have hijacked the venue, the menu, and the guest list, surrendering the dress means surrendering her physical autonomy.
If she puts on the abominable snowman, she completes her transition into the beige box.
Exactly. And to further emphasize the stakes, the sources introduce another mirror for Tam, Meredith.
Ah, Meredith, the chronically invisible girlfriend of Tam's cruel brother, James.
She is heartbreaking. She tells Tam that she used to love singing around the house, but James made her stop because he found it annoying.
She has been entirely erased.
She functions as the ghost of Christmas future for Tam. On the eve of Tam's wedding, Meredith shows up and announces she is finally leaving James.
And the catalyst for her departure was actually witnessing Tam's erasure, wasn't it?
Yes. Meredith saw her own invisibility reflected in how the family treated Tam. By breaking the cycle and telling Tam, don't fade your colors for anyone, Meredith demonstrates that escape is possible.
She proves that the jaws of that trap haven't fully snapped shut.
Right, which sets the stage for the climax at the church.
Oh, this scene. It is the day of the wedding. The venue is packed with 200 high society guests. Tam arrives at the altar, and she has drawn her line in the sand.
She is wearing the bohemian lace dress.
She is wearing the comfortable flat shoes. Her hair is wild and natural.
Yeah.
And she is wearing the unapologetic, bright red Ruby Woo lipstick.
She brings her unfiltered, authentic self to the altar.
She is forcing Harris to look at the reality of who she is, essentially running a final stress test on the relationship.
And Harris fails the test in spectacular fashion.
He really does. As she stands beside him, instead of looking at his bride with any warmth or awe, he aggressively whispers a barrage of insults.
He tells her she looks terrible.
He berates the dress. He criticizes her hair. And he actually reprimands her for being 2 minutes late because it might irritate his mother's bladder.
I mean, the psychological whiplash is immediate. The contrast between Jack and Harris becomes impossible for Tam to ignore.
Night and day.
Jack, a corporate executive who has known her for a fraction of the time, looked at her unfiltered, messy, panicked self in a broken elevator and categorized her as exceptional. Harris, the man promising to love her for the rest of her life, looks at her most authentic self and sees an embarrassing project that requires immediate correction.
It is the definitive breaking point. She doesn't argue with him. She doesn't break down. She simply turns to Meredith, hands over the bridal bouquet in this beautiful, silent passing of the torch.
And walks right back down the aisle.
She walks out the church doors in her comfortable flat shoes into the sunlight.
Walking away at the altar is a massive subversion of the traditional romance trope. It is a complete structural rejection of the false narrative she was conditioned to accept.
And the aftermath, detailed in the sources, proves that the rejection was the catalyst for her renaissance. We jump forward 6 months.
Yorkmart is thriving under Jack's leadership.
He made good on his promise, the deadwood has been cleared out, and the unsung heroes are running the show. Oleg is heading finance. Sheila is heading HR.
The company is operating on a foundation of genuine competence rather than performative ego.
Because companies, much like interpersonal relationships, only achieve sustainable growth when leadership values the actual human capital, rather than just the optical facade.
Exactly. And Tam is fully restored. She walks into work wearing a bright green suit paired with red ruby woo shoes.
She and Anna have cultivated a supportive community outside the office. And then we get this brilliant narrative bookend.
Tam and Jack are back in the elevator at Crown Tower.
And the lift breaks down again. It stops dead between floors, the main lights blow, and the emergency lights flicker on.
But the psychological context has entirely shifted.
Tam doesn't hyperventilate. She doesn't panic. She actually laughs.
Because the internal claustrophobia has been cured. She's no longer trapped in a suffocating relationship or a stagnant career. So being trapped in a physical metal box no longer triggers the same primal terror.
The external environment hasn't changed, but her internal resilience has.
Beautifully put. Jack looks at her in the dim light and tells her that when he eventually moves on, he will ensure she is the one taking the permanent managing director seat.
He confirms she is destined to run the company. And then finally, they share a romantic moment. He asks her to lunch, and she leans in and kisses him.
It is a deeply earned payoff.
It really is.
Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the stack of sources reveals that this narrative of reclamation is a central pillar in Millie Johnson's broader thematic universe.
Right. If you analyze the excerpts from her other works, you see this pattern repeated and explored through different lenses.
Like in The Happiest Ever After. The protagonist, Polly, is enduring a miserable existence with a terrible boss and a partner who is actively unfaithful.
Polly is surviving, not living.
Exactly. Her method of coping is entirely internal. She writes a novel where she channels all her repressed frustration into an alter ego named Sabrina.
Sabrina is bold, feisty, and demands respect.
And the psychological arc of that story is Polly realizing that Sabrina isn't a fictional character. Sabrina is her own suppressed potential.
Polly has to physically embody the avatar she created and rewrite her own reality. She has to stop hiding in the fiction and start applying that courage to her actual life.
We also see the power of forced pauses in Let the Bells Ring Out, where characters are stranded on a luxury sleeper train during a massive snowstorm.
The snowstorm functions similarly to the broken elevator, doesn't it?
It does. It's a liminal space. It strips away the distractions of daily life and forces the characters to confront the truths they've been avoiding.
You see similar dynamic in Same Time Next Week, where a disparate group of women meet regularly at a diner to share their burdens.
The diner becomes a sanctuary.
Exactly. Across all these sources, the overarching philosophy is clear. It is an exploration of the absolute necessity of community, the protective power of female friendship, and the quiet magic of everyday empathy.
Like Sheila holding the HR department together, or Jack buying Tam a small felted cat to help her grieve a pet.
Yeah. Most fundamentally, these stories are an argument for the triumph of women rejecting the second-best narrative.
They outline the necessary steps to stop self-silencing, recognize your inherent worth, and refuse to be packed away in a box for someone else's convenience.
The practical application of this deep dive is demanding an audit of the people in your own life. You have to learn to identify the Jack Cesaronis and the Anna Andersons.
You need the people who look at your unfiltered, complex, occasionally messy self, recognize your unique value, and tell you that you are exceptional.
The people who actively encourage you to take up space.
Conversely, it requires the vigilance to spot the Harrises and the Natashas.
The people who operate subtly, handing you gray paint and suggesting you tone yourself down.
The individuals who view your authenticity as a liability that needs to be managed or minimized.
As Tam's trajectory illustrates, the fading of your identity doesn't happen overnight. It is a series of tiny, seemingly pragmatic compromises.
You concede one boundary, then another, until you wake up and realize you are living a life designed by someone else.
But the core message of the Renaissance is that the timeline is entirely up to you. It is never too late to stop at the altar, hand over the bouquet, and walk back down the aisle.
The door is always unlocked. The agency to reclaim your narrative remains intact, no matter how long it has been suppressed.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider as you go about your day. We all have a version of that cardboard box in the attic.
We do.
Think about the Ruby Woo lipstick or the Battenberg yellow shirt in your own life. Identify that one quirky, loud, intensely authentic piece of yourself that you boxed up and hid away simply because it made someone else feel uncomfortable.
And ask yourself a question.
What would happen if you woke up tomorrow, walked up to the attic, unpacked that box, and wore it out into the world? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.